What is going on? Okay, so I can hear the video coming out on your end.
Yeah, Jesus.
Okay, you guys are gonna have to bear with us here at the beginning. When Cooper came in, his audio was all jacked up. We don't know why, so we had to try to get it to where it sounded good enough to me, and then we'll have to figure out how to get it to where it works for you.
This is okay. So I've got Restream's coming through my interface, which is my headphones, but everything else is coming through my laptop speaker for some reason. So let me turn that off. Okay, we should be good now. Okay. Guys, let us know how the levels and everything are. How do we sound relative to one another?
Yeah, before we go, like, we don't have any way on our end to actually figure out what it's going to sound like to you guys. I can just tell him how he sounds to me, and he can tell, yeah, so we have to use you guys. Yeah, I can definitely hear that when you play it. So it may just be that you just have to mute whenever we're playing a video. Because for the most part, it should be fine, I think.
No, I've just got because I've got the stream pulled up on the, so I can watch the chat, so I'll just mute that, and it should solve the problem for now. I don't know what the deal is.
Everyone's saying we sound good.
I was may or may not have been acquiring certain software in an illicit or licit manner over the weekend, and all my drivers are all fucked up now.
It's like, I don't know, it feels like getting taken back to high school or college.
Yep. Yeah, you got like LimeWire or something open.
Yeah.
Like BitTorrent or something.
That's funny. My computer was all janked up for the last few days. It was just super, super slow, and I tried restarting everything. I tried installing updates. Couldn't figure out what was going on, and it just, I guess it took restarting everything 5 times instead of 4 times to fix it. Because,
and then it worked.
And then it worked. So okay. Oh well, I don't know. So it's Monday. It's kind of an ordinary weekend. Anything out of the ordinary happened to you this weekend?
No, nothing happened because nothing ever happens.
You're right. Yeah, the nothing ever happens bros have informed us, and I don't know. Maybe they got a point. Maybe nothing ever does happen.
Okay, there we go. I think I got it sorted out on my end. Cool. We're ready to rock.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously it was a very, very abnormal weekend. I had so I did promise you guys last week at some point, I'd forgotten about this. I promised you I was going to talk about the Patriot Front issue, and then somebody mentioned it in the comments. And so that would have been the subject matter for this morning. But
the most obvious op in history.
Well, so that would be my take would be that it isn't. My take would be that it seems like they seem sincere.
Really?
Yeah. It's pretty fascinating.
Dude.
Just
Patriot
you wait.
Front, really?
Just you wait until you see the case. Well, that'll have to be another. That's a conversation for another day.
Okay.
I went into it assuming that they were. I've always assumed they were. I just didn't even care because it was so obvious. Which makes it interesting.
They keep trying to make it a thing. The media keeps trying to make it a thing, and no one's biting.
Right? Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is you would think people would be biting if it was an actual op. Like, anyways, we'll get into this later. So obviously a very, very eventful weekend. The
Teflon Don.
Yeah. Teflon Don has magical 6th senses. He can conjure up winds to blow away snipers' bullets. So, Cooper, what are your just off the top? What were your? How did you find out? How did you experience the most significant event since 9/11?
It was interesting because it's not typical that like political happenings really affect me. It's usually like, oh, okay, another thing, enjoying the circus. But it was, I remember my parents, because I remember 9/11, but I was very young. I was like 3 or 4 or something like that. So it didn't really mean anything to me. I just know that SpongeBob was being interrupted or whatever. So I imagine I had a similar reaction to the news of this that my parents had for like 9/11 or Kennedy or whatever, where there was kind of Well, I found out just through the Discord. I think it was Euthanasia or something was the first one to post in the Discord about it. And I was like, oh, what? And then I jumped on Twitter and saw everyone freaking out. And I had like a physical reaction where I'm reading this and I'm kind of feeling myself go numb.
Uh-huh.
Did you have a similar experience?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was out with family. Some of my wife's best friend's family, her mom's best friend, they all were out to visit because Gaga is here to visit. So we went over to their house. We were hanging out at their house talking. Her Uncle Frank was getting me all liquored up. He just kept giving me beer, and I was like drinking it just to be polite. He's a really cool guy. I took pictures of his garage. I forgot to post that in the Discord. I'll post them later. His garage is just, there's like pinup calendars. He's got some old Chevy, I think, pickup.
That's been my
completely
kind of guy.
redone. He's got like his whole tool walls, and he's got all the little tchotchkes and everything. Everything is just clean. It's a really cool throwback garage. So I'm like hanging out with them and everything, and then we're going to go out to dinner. So we drive out to the restaurant, get to the restaurant, and as I was getting into the car to start driving, I checked my my phone, and I see a tweet notification from Vivek that says "Pray for Trump," and I was like, he's been getting kind of a little like his whole like campaigning thing is very, I don't know. He's speaking the language of the electoral politics world, but it just gets really, really grating after a while. And so I'm like, pray for Trump. Oh my God. Like I'm the most Trump sympathetic person in the world, but I'm like, pray for Trump. Good grief. What's going on? Why is he saying this? This is so dramatic. So we get to the restaurant and I pull my phone out and I see Trump shot. So I don't know what the notification was, but I saw it from something Trump shot. And right then, everyone's like, hey, let's take a group picture. So I have to stuff my phone back in my pocket and get in like, hey, everyone get here for the picture and everything. And I'm sitting here going, what's going on? What's happening? What's happening? I pull my phone out and I swipe it open and I just see an image of Trump's face with blood going down the side of his head. And it was a still shot. So I didn't have any context for it. And then we're like, okay, let's go try to find a seat over here and everything. So my whole body went numb. Just a massive shot of adrenaline. And I was like, holy shit, what's happening right now? And it took like, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes of that before I could actually sit down and open it up and see what was going on.
Yeah, well, similar, because I was on my way over to a friend's house, and I'm like, definitely not scrolling on Twitter and driving at the same time. And I'm sitting there feeling like numb, because all I saw was that as well, like Trump just got shot, and then I'm scrolling through Twitter trying to figure out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And, there wasn't any answers yet for a few minutes there before I was able to kind of piece things together and be like, is he alive? Is he not? Because, that moment there where I'm like, oh, it was not clear for a minute there what was going to happen in the future. And as it turns out, we were an inch away from things being very, very different today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think actually I've got a million tabs.
You take a bunch of people who are desperate and they're on hard times, especially I live in Trump country, dude. I'm in the Midwest, the Rust Belt. And you take all of their hope, and maybe you could criticize people for feeling this way, that they're putting all their hope in a man, but all their hope, everything is just invested in Trump. And they already feel like they're backed into a corner, and you take that away. Like, you've got a lot of people who are already feeling desperate. People are going to start doing some wacky shit.
Uh-huh. Here's an image on the screen here of he just so happened. So I'm sure most people probably know all the details already, but for those who don't, we'll get into some of the less publicly known details. For those of you who have just been headline watching or something. So he had actually gone off script. He has his teleprompters out, and I've watched some of the recordings of it from, I don't know, 90 seconds before this. He's like, he asked the crowd, he's doing his Trumpian thing. He asked the crowd, hey, you don't care if I go off the script, right? Like, let's go off script for a little bit. I have my favorite image, my favorite chart. I just want to show my favorite chart, which is this one about illegal immigration and how much it has changed and everything. So he even said, like, the teleprompters are just so boring. I keep telling them, they just keep writing me these really boring speeches. So let's go off script. So because he went off script, like 90 seconds before that, he had to turn and look up at the screen to see the chart. So because of that, he wasn't standing with his head broadside to the shooter. He was occasionally broadside and then occasionally was turned. So if the shooter was headed for trying to hit his temple, then him turning his head, all it would take is just the slightest bit of, I don't know, a little breath of wind, perhaps, to just knock it. Just all it had to be was like a quarter inch, which means from the perspective of the shooter, it's like a couple millimeters over. And
not even.
It would have been, yeah, I think I saw something. It was like 1,000th of a millimeter or something. The barrel would have to move. So the slightest little difference, and you have red mist on live TV. And the blood gods would have gotten their blood. And I mean that in a very literal sense. And once the blood gods get their blood, there's one thing that they want more than anything else. More of it.
Well, and that's the thing is, I see some people. Maybe perhaps you can pull up that tweet from Uber Boyo.
Yes,
where he was kind of comparing, like, okay, there's kind of two options, or there was basically two options had this actually gone down, wherein either the American people actually do something, or they just lay down and take it. And they just resign themselves. And like, people already feel kind of resigned. They've already kind of given up. All that's left is Trump.
There are a lot of people who feel like they've already taken that option. And that there is no more taking that option. I did real quick. I got that thread from Uber Boyo, but this one, I saw this just before I went live. I was sitting on the throne and I was just like, oh my God. There is a tweet for everything. That you could not script this man's life like this. If you scripted this man's life like this, so what it says is, when you're hot, quotes, when you're hot, the lowlives really shoot at you, and they try hitting you from every angle. Never let the bastards get you down.
Yeah, for real, man. Like, think about, the protagonist and, who's running for the highest office in the land. Like, if you were reading this in a fantasy series and then there was a shot taken and he just so happened to turn his head at the right moment and a gust of wind blew it and it just clipped his ear but it didn't kill him, you'd be like, I can't, this is bullshit. Total plot armor.
You're right.
Like, but that's what happened.
This is literally what happened. Now, okay, I know we got that Uber Boyo one, but I had actually a couple things that I lined up here to show immediately at the beginning. All my tabs are just all sorts of out of order here. Buck Johnson just posted this out. He said, perfect sentiment and segment from Pete Quinones to the folks who think this was a staged fake event.
They took a shot at the president. They were taking a shot at you. They actually missed him and got one of us. A 50-year-old ex-fire chief, church every Sunday, was shielding his family. Took a bullet. Some of you right now are thinking to yourself, no, that's fake. And I really want you guys to go fuck yourselves who think that. Okay? They took a shot at the president. They were taking a shot at you.
Okay. So, here's Uber Boyo. He said, America was an inch away from the most heavily armed population in all of human history descending into a civil war. I know people from Northern Ireland who lived through civil war. It's not a joke. One girl had a brother whose leg was blown off one morning when starting his car. He bled out on the road. Others remembered their parents mixing petrol and polyester in their backyard to make homemade napalm for Molotov cocktails. That's surreal to us in our comfortable lives. The internet age feels like it will last forever. You feel you can say anything and it'll be forgotten. One of the blessings of a peaceful age is forgetfulness. But in Northern Ireland, people had long memories. Blood feuds and grudges would last decades. Hate has a way of searing things onto people's souls. It's not wise to sear your echoing laughter in wounded souls. Wounds can catch fire and turn into vengeance. And this was in response to Destiny and him
frickin' goblin. Look at this guy.
Yeah, him recognizing that there was an opportunity to volunteer for demon possession and just raising both hands.
Yeah, right.
I volunteer as tribute. He is more than happy.
Blood for the blood gods.
When an event like this happens, like no matter how the event pans out, the way that this stirs the human spirit in a very real sense. I'm not talking rhetorically or metaphorically. Like the human spirit gets roused up with something like this. There's a tremendous amount of energy that's looking for a vessel. This is the sort of black swan event that can completely divert the arc of history really, really quickly. Because everyone, the nothing ever happens bros, what they don't recognize is that it just takes one happening. Literally in the space of a single second, the entire arc of history changed. And there's people who are going to try to scramble and say, oh, no, let's see, it's just going to be exactly like it was before, and here's the galaxy brain reason why. Nothing ever happens. This is just continuing the exact same trajectory.
Yeah, dude. Like,
and what they're doing is they're actually volunteering to be a vessel for the spirit that wants to continue the same trajectory.
Yeah, we dodged a bullet, if you will. Wherein, I remember my priest was talking about this yesterday. He was giving an announcement for anybody who hadn't heard the news, that being the monks. The monks were like, he was like, I presume you've all heard the news, and the monks are like, what news? So, it's like
God bless our monks.
Yeah, right. One of the benefits of being in a hermitage. They're like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, So he fills them in, and it was kind of interesting watching them experience it in real time. But he made a really good point, is just feel how you want to feel about Trump, but look at all the countries around the world where like political assassinations are a regular occurrence. Is that the world you want to live in?
Oh, Naval Ravikant made a really interesting point. He said that the American system...
let's say things had gone differently. Let's say, all of the miracles hadn't worked out the way they did, and we just got Trump had his melon popped on live TV. I don't know how you don't I don't know how that just doesn't just spiral off into ever escalating violence.
This was in the response to Uber Boyo. He said, Bizlet said, what actually would happen is that boomers would get mad and Fed post on Facebook, and the GOP would nominate Marco Rubio or Nikki Haley, and the Dems would win. No civil war, total Dem victory. And Uber Boyo said, if his skull was burst open all across live television, either the actual military may snap, or Americans would take it lying down and accept brokenness and submission, likely for decades. Hard to tell which way it'd go.
And it might be hard for him to tell over there in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it is so hard. Maybe it's just wishful thinking on my part, but I really doubt it would be, oh, we're just going to lay down and let them trans our kids.
Because that's what's been happening. What's been happening is people have just been laying down and taking it. They're bending over backward, trying to just hoping that it'll go away. Just hoping that something will happen where they won't have to actually significantly change themselves. And Trump is the single vessel that the vast majority of people see. Because what happens if there's no Trump? It's not just if Trump died, had a heart attack and died. I mean, there would be the people who are really conspiratorial about it. But if Trump died, or if Trump just stepped down and just took himself out of the picture, I'm sick and tired or whatever, that wouldn't have the same effect as Trump's head exploding on live TV. This isn't JFK era. We live in the 24/7 live TV era. Nothing like this has ever happened. Nothing remotely comparable to this.
And even if you want to discount the idea that people are actually going to come to blows, as Charles Spadil pointed out, all it would take, all the blue collar guys, the people who have all the guns, who actually maintain infrastructure and stuff like that. If it really, they don't even have to go, they don't even have to get violent. I'm sure they probably would, and they want to, but they wouldn't even have to. They would just not show up to work for 2 weeks, and everybody in the city starts starving.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the shit libs understand just how skewed the scale is, not in their favor. Because it also, like that, as you said, something like this, like if that actually happened, red mist on live TV, Donald Trump, I don't think the shit libs realize. Maybe I'm overstating it. I don't know that I am, but like as you said, like you would just people getting dragged out of their house and eaten, you know?
Yeah. I went like within an hour or so, like I'd found out and I'm like tracking, trying to see what's going on. I'm sitting there like putting food in my mouth with one hand and scrolling with the other. And everyone's like, Matt, what's going on? Any updates? What's going on? People are calling each other, like talking to them about it. And the people, when I told them, the look on each person's face, where their face just went white. Yep. That said everything. Man, woman, old, young, every single person that I told, their face just dropped completely. And they're like, is he okay? Because like deep in your soul, you recognize what the effect would have been. I mean, just to paint a picture of how easily this could have gone, imagine that Sunday morning, while people were going to church, there were mobs of people on the streets exulting in blood madness. That like within 12 hours. And it would take one guy driving his car to just snap and lose his shit. And we're talking escalation within 24 hours to a world none of us want to live in.
Like, you remember the effect that COVID had on a lot of people who were already kind of on the edge. And then it's just like now their job's gone. And then there was a lot of people doing wacky shit. Mm-hmm. I feel like this would have been way more impactful than COVID. Because COVID was kind of a slow burn. It kind of ramped up over time. This would have just been like all the people barely hanging on. They would have had nothing left.
And if you don't, like, if what we're saying doesn't resonate with you, you need to fucking turn your spiritual sensors on. You're flying blind. Because the fact that things didn't, like, the fact that situation was averted doesn't mean we've somehow had some sort of, there was no burst of ecstasy. There was relief, and the images that came out of it were profound. The most like stirring images you could possibly craft. If you wanted to touch something deep in the human soul, you couldn't craft something better than Donald Trump and all that he is, taking a bullet to the head, going down, Secret Service tackles him, and he stands up and fights through them in fist pumps with blood streaming down his face and says, fight, fight, fight. This is
mythic.
You wouldn't believe it if somebody had written this in 1960s Romania or something. It would be like, yeah, sure. This is obviously a mythology that's been constructed since then. And we literally watched it happen from a million different angles. Something like that actually happened in real life. The most incomparably mythic story played out immediately in front of everyone. So on the flip side, if you don't recognize the profound spiritual significance of that, again, you need to turn on your spiritual sensors.
Yeah, go to church.
Yes. You've got to unplug yourself from this like rationalist, nihilist matrix. Because that's what's happening to people. This has been the biggest narrative breaking event of all time. I mean, in recent history. The mass effect on the consciousness of people as everything about their brain and the way they see the world gets rewired in real time. I'm not saying everybody is that this is not going to happen for every single person, because there is this completely, deranged, inhuman version of shit libbery that is obviously possessed at this point. They are obviously possessed and diving in deeper and deeper and deeper.
Oh, and you saw it. You saw it within 15 minutes of getting the news. Like, I was seeing them, the demons were crawling out. Go tune into Shitlib Twitter and you can see it. Or go to Reddit and watch them have their meltdowns.
Like,
and
trending on Twitter was like one shot, and you had one job, or one job. That's what it was. One job, and how could you miss? That was it. One job, and how could you miss? Were trending on Twitter.
Man, and you made a point a minute ago about there wasn't because of God's providence, there wasn't that the fallout didn't turn into this sort of cathartic bout of ecstasy, which is not a good thing. You don't want that.
Yes.
It'll feel very good. It's not good. I suspect that because there wasn't that pressure release, that things are going to get even more tense as time goes on.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
The reason you don't want that cathartic ecstasy is because the sight of people experiencing cathartic ecstasy at something as abjectly horrifying as that, let's say that creates a desire among other people to experience their own cathartic ecstasy. That is weaponizing things deep within the human psyche that the human psyche has no control over, or very little control over.
Yeah, you don't put that genie back.
No. Which is, it's kind of interesting that the press, they have their whole, like, immediately their narrative is, oh, what about the retaliation? They're not wrong in having that sense, because they recognize the significance of retaliation like that.
They are so lucky, man.
Yes. I'm tapped into a number of different veterans communities of guys who are already extremely jaded. Extremely jaded. They're itching for an excuse. They desperately want a justification, because the great thing about them is they're fundamentally good men who don't want to do something unjustified. But what's becoming justifiable, that bar is raising. And that event happening in that way, and the response that it would have yielded, would have absolutely been seen as justification for a more than sufficient number of people. That's the vengeful son. And there's a lot of people who want that, who think that it's actually a regime plot to try to suppress that or not want that to come out. No, that's not a regime plot. That's a human thing. You don't want that to come out. You don't want things to get to the point where that has to come out. Because there is a point where it does have to come out. And all of us are collectively responsible for doing whatever we can to ensure that that doesn't happen. That it doesn't get to that point. CB, you have one job. People who don't have one job. Oh, that's good. This was a really interesting point from Naval. He said the U.S. isn't a failed European country. It's a working Latin American country. If it fails, it'll look more like Mexico than Scandinavia. I was like, damn. I think he's right. I don't know. I don't necessarily know exactly why that is. But, I mean, Roman is Latin. So, I don't know. What do you think, Cooper?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd have to think
Let's
about
see.
it more.
I already showed you guys that. There's not really a rhyme or reason to most of the things that I'd bookmarked for today, but there's a couple of good threads here I wanted to read through. I already showed that picture. Let me just make sure that I get things. Okay, yeah. So we'll read these two threads. The first one is from Big Magatuna. He says, now that the dust has settled ever so slightly, a few thoughts on Donald Trump, my great nation, and their now inextricably intertwined futures. First of all, I am incredibly relieved that Donald Trump is still alive. Clearly, God protected him yesterday. The timing of the bullet whizzing by and piercing only his ear is a remarkable sign from heaven. I hope Trump will soon come to realize this himself. Now, this image, I've seen some people saying this is faked. Early on in this whole thing, I saw people people who specialize in like projectiles and photographing them and what they look like and everything that were doing deep analyses on these, and they're like, yeah, this is a real picture. Or they were saying if I was to take a picture of something like this, it would look like this, and there's no evidence that it's been faked. So There's the actual. I don't know if this is necessarily the shot that hit him. It kind of seems like the sniper got off one shot at him and then was sort of spray and praying as he was taking return fire. Says, but what yesterday proved is that the popular conception of Trump in the mainstream, and even the Trump often painted by the online right, is totally wrong. He is not a buffoon, nor a coward, nor a con man, nor a mere power-hungry demagogue. Instead, Trump is the American. Brash but brave, overzealous but true, wild but confident. He stood there, got shot, and sat in a pool of his own blood for a moment. Then he got up and told the crowd to fight, fight, fight. He is the epitome of the American man. Another thing.
Video? Can you play the video of him?
Yeah. That should be relatively easy to.
It was a really interesting. How do you say? I suppose peek into his soul.
Yes. Let me see if I can pull it up. I don't know. I probably should have had it just naturally. I don't even know why I didn't. Okay. Whoops. Watching the people behind him is so good, too. All right, here.
Take a look at what happened.
What are we doing? What are we doing? That shot there, that last one, was the kill shot. There was video from people who were over next to the guy. They were like the ones who were pointing up. I might have the video in here later. Who were pointing at him crawling on the roof. They were yelling at him, and then the shooting starts, and the camera goes all over the place. And then you can hear him saying, "Watch out! Watch out! He's turning our direction. Get down! Get down!" And then you hear that last lone shot, and then they go, "Okay, they got him. He's down," or something like that. So that last shot was the actual kill shot. Watch this guy back here as we're going through this.
Hold. When you're ready, on you. Ready? Move. Up. Move. Go. Up. Hawkeye's here. Hawkeye's here. Move it to the stair. Stair, get ready. Stair, get ready. We ready? Are we good? Shooters down. Are we good to move? We're clear. Let's move. We're clear. Let me get my shoes. I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes, sir.
Hold that in your head. It's bloody.
So we got to move to the bus. Let me get my shoes.
Okay. Watch out.
Oh my god, man.
Fuck.
Doesn't that choke you up? Holy shit.
Oh, yeah. Every time. Okay.
I got you, sir.
So one thing that has, after kind of getting some of the responses, seeing what people have said and everything, and then watching it and kind of trying to sit here and put myself in their shoes and understand what's happening. When he's saying, let me get my shoes, he's not saying, hold on, I need my shoes so I can walk. He's saying, let me get my shoes so I can stand here and keep speaking. That was his frame of mind. His frame of mind is like, okay, you got me down, the shooter's down, we're all good, I'm trying to stand up so I can keep speaking. And they're dragging him off. So I've seen a lot of people who are now the Secret Service. We could have a whole conversation about that. The women being on there, they showed out very poorly. But a lot of people have been really harsh on this chick in front of him for letting him get out and like fist pump and do all that. But if you're in the middle of something like that happening, you are never going to think someone's actually going to do that. And there's something spiritual about that experience. If I was there, I would have done it. Just instinctively, not even thinking about it. You give him that opportunity to do that. Just because, why? Because it creates this sort of scenario. It's not a conscious thing.
Also, Trump is a big dude, and he was fighting them.
Yes. Yes. He's a big dude. He golfs regularly, so you know he has good core strength for a almost 80-year-old. So he's a big dude. He's fighting him. That's also why you don't have a 5'3" chick responsible for guarding a large man like that.
Yeah.
But this guy behind him right here.
Sir, I got you, sir. Let me get my shoes, sir.
How much you want to bet that guy's a veteran?
That's exactly what I said. I said this guy's 100% either a veteran or like a law enforcement like veteran. Because my dude was in his element. Immediately, he's like, all right, taking in every single possible perspective. This is happening here. This is here. He was dialed in. He's probably, it's kind of macabre to say, but he's probably never been happier in his life than he was in that moment, going through that adrenaline pumping experience. Some people are just made for that.
I don't know if happy is the word, but certainly he felt alive, and you know it.
Yes.
That guy, yeah, he knew. Oh, man.
Watch out.
Man, look at his face. Yeah, that guy in the back, you can tell he's been in this situation before.
Uh-huh. Oh. I'm going to leave that open in case we come back to it for something. Let me keep going through this thread.
Yeah.
He is the epitome of the American man. Another thing the very failed assassination brought to light was all the best and worst of what we loosely call America. First, the worst.
Yeah, I mean, you got it, like, to my point earlier, kind of a picture into Trump's soul. Like, okay, this is not scripted. He's not acting. This is like you're getting a glance at, like, okay, this is who this guy is.
Mm-hmm. That's a... Oh, interesting. J.D. Vance has left his home in a motorcade. We're supposed to get... Trump's VP announcement is supposed to be here today. So anybody in the chat, if there's updated information, let us know. I'm going to try to keep track of it. I'm going to put on the record right now, my prediction is Glenn Youngkin, the VP from Virginia. I think he's the perfect mix of, I don't know, kind of deflating, where it's like, you know, you're not going to get Eric Prince, you're not going to get J.D. Vance, you're not going to get Vivek, you're not going to get one of those real, like, oh yeah. It's just kind of like,
but what if? But
okay.
What if you do?
But yes.
Let's just have fun for a second. What if it is J.D. Vance? Is it game on?
Elon Musk openly endorsed him for VP yesterday, day before yesterday. Within a couple hours after it, someone said, I think it might have been Cernovich, said that, like, that's it. There needs to be a contingency plan. J.D. Vance for vice president is the best assassination insurance or something like that. And Elon replied and said, yes, absolutely. Elon also mentioned that there's been 2 assassination attempts on him who have been broken or broken up in the last few months. Thwarted, yes. 2-Bit Podcast says if Vance wasn't in before, he's definitely in now. Right, yeah. Like, that's the significance, I think, of it's not just like, oh, well, Elon's going to get whatever he wants. It's that someone like Elon publicly throwing his weight behind J.D. Vance, like the richest man in the world, who's probably the most influential single human besides Trump. If he says he wants J.D. Vance, that's a pretty fucking powerful vote. And it also shows where his mind is at. So this was, okay, we're getting
102 watching. Hit the like button, fellas.
Yes, please do. Okay, let's finish one thought at a time here, because I've got some other threads to get through.
I know, man. Sorry.
We're good.
Nothing ever happens.
So, Washington Post. Now, Trump escorted away after loud noises at Pennsylvania rally. I saw a lot of people who are saying, like, their defense for this is, oh, well, you know, we're trying to figure things out and we don't want to break news that's not news. And, like, I can understand that to an extent. Like, yeah, in a situation like this, you're fucking scrambling. You're, you know, phone calls on both ears and you're trying to get the news out and get ahead of it and everything. This is part of the problem of the entire industry. So, like, you don't want to say assassination attempt necessarily immediately. However, there's literally an embedded video with the headline showing him with blood on his face being escorted off the stage. So maybe you could be, oh, I don't know whether it's going to be, maybe it wasn't blood that hit him. It was the shot hit his teleprompter and it was glass that cut him. Either way, someone was shooting at him. Even now, they're still saying, oh, we didn't know the shooter's motives. We need to wait until we find out the shooter's motives. And everyone's like, yeah, fuck bullshit to that. We do not. Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after he falls at rally. Trump removed from stage by Secret Service after loud noises startles. So you can't even get your fucking grammar right. After loud noises startles former president, crowd. Trump says he was shot at rally, an assassination attempt, spectator killed and shooter dead. Trump says he was shot. That's the worst. The left, as always, was both bloodthirsty and cowardly, openly lamenting that Trump's very failed assassin missed his target while still huddling in fear that the very failed assassination might lead to blowback from the right.
The very failed assassination. I love that.
Yes.
Very Trumpian.
Yeah. Next, the best. The meme magic. Necktie Salvage says, today Trump ascended to a place of permanent folk hero status. No matter what happens, none of it matters. Nothing will change this fact. With this photo and his reaction, he is cemented into historical American consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
The wicked flee when no man pursueth, but the righteous are bold as a lion. With the image of the Congress people huddling in their on the floor in the chamber during January 6th. Trump did a sudden head movement that rotated his head clockwise. This means that the bullet entry point would have hit the back of his skull and killed him instantly had he not. People broke into praising the Lord and praying to God in a way I haven't seen around the internet and in real life in a long, long time. The sudden burst of patriotism for old America was McKinley-esque and Washingtonian. I once more feel proud to be an American. So what's next? Official statements condemning the shooting are slowly pouring in. The RNC is merely a few days away, but what yesterday showed us was that not only are real politics back, they aren't going away. The calls for unity are not merely stupid anymore, they're subversive. Donald Trump, as ever, has been the voice of the American people against a corrupt regime. Yesterday proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that Trump and the regime are on an inevitable collision course that ends one of two ways. 1, Trump dies. 2, the regime is destroyed. There will be no middle ground. No wishing for the days of Clinton and Bush. No hand-wringing about the temperature and overheated rhetoric. No false two-faced calls for unity. 1 or 2, red or blue, Trump or the regime. American rebirth or the death of the nation. Keep your cool, don't do anything stupid or rash, remain peaceful. But buy a MAGA hat and wear it in public. Find out who's really your friend and who's too cowardly, stupid, or evil to be counted on. Don't hang out with people who are fundamentally untrustworthy. Make note of everyone who lamented that the bullet missed. Make a note of everyone who still, even after the very failed assassination, found a way to countersignal Donald Trump. Make note of everyone who couldn't even bring themselves to say Trump's name in condemning the VFA. Know one more thing. You aren't fit to criticize Trump if you're not in real politics. Yesterday, Trump proved once and for all that he truly is the man in the arena. He is not the regime's pick. He's the regime's most wanted. And now he knows that. More info will come out in the following days and months. Prayers ought to be given to God for the senseless death and harm of innocents in the crowd. You ought to pray for your country and your leaders. Pray that God's justice will not sleep, but that his mercy will come down. Yesterday, in the truest sense, was a dark day in American history. But now there is no return. A time for choosing has been thrust upon us. I'll end with a word, perhaps the truest thing that Donald Trump has ever and perhaps will ever say. They're not after me. They're after you. I'm just standing in the way. And then there's a good response over here from I am 1776 that I haven't read yet, but I have bookmarked. Okay. Now, some good documentation in this thread from King Bingo, which I find it amusing to have a guy with a British flag in his name who's weighing in on all of this. I appreciate it, though. America truly is the center of the universe. Why the assassination attempt on Trump was an inside job and the Secret Service was in on it, as well as several other organizations. A short thread of what we know that points to a single unavoidable conclusion. Image by John D. I'm a sucker for this kind of image where it's all black and white except for one color. Also, the upside down appearance of the American flag. This. Did you see the video of the cameraman who got this image?
No.
There's actually there's video from behind him where you can see him, and then he was wearing like a GoPro or something like that, and there's his first person perspective on it.
Oh yes.
Running up there, and I gotta fucking give it to him. Like being the cameraman, running right up there, like who knows what's going on? He doesn't know that the shooter's down or anything, and he's like sprinting up there to get this picture. That's a wartime photographer. Just the most incredible image. It has everything. The woman trying to protect him. Like this is this is masculine vril breaking out beyond the longhouse. You'll not stop me, woman. I'm gonna pump my fucking fist and you can't do anything about it. He says, first up, I'm not saying that his own Secret Service detail all had a meeting and agreed.
I know, dude. That keeps tripping me up.
I'm just gonna say it. They are blameless. I'm talking about the organization as a whole and very much the director, Kimberly Cheadle, a direct Biden appointee. Now get this. The party of cheaters appointed the woman who was formerly responsible for guarding Cheetos to be responsible for guarding the guy who looks like a Cheeto, and her name is Cheadle. This would be like the shittiest movie ever if it wasn't real. Cheadle had been running the Trump detail on bare-bones staffing and resources levels. Cheadle's main priority was diversity, increasing female officers to 30%. Oh yeah, imagine that. Imagine you get out
and YouTube influencer.
This is the chick responsible for protecting you.
But I'm very conscious.
A job that requires a response to extreme violence shouldn't just be done by men, but a select few men. It's highly unlikely you'll find many females who possess the right instincts, such as not exposing the president to pick up a hat. Now, I will say, I think the reason she did that was because she's trying to make sure that the almost 80-year-old man that she's helping carry off the stage doesn't step on something and slip down the stairs. So, you know, I think clearing out the ground in front of where he's trying to walk is also important. The deliberate choice of understaffing meant a sniper could spend several minutes getting into position on a rooftop with a clear view of the stage just 400 feet away. This level of understaffing was a choice, a very, very deliberate one. There's even been a graphic that's been shown that shows the perimeter that they were supposedly guarding, and there's literally a cutout right around this building. Like, it's a circle with a slice taken out of it that goes right around this building. Basically the only building that would have given a clear line of sight shot.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions.
And that's the tip of the iceberg. Numerous Democrat attempts have been made to remove even that. Some going as far as introducing legislation. The Democratic machine made a very deliberate choice to expose Trump to successful assassination attempts. So Ranking Member Thompson introduces legislation to ensure no Secret Service protection for convicted felons sentenced to prison. And his field director or something like that was one of the people who was posting within an hour after it happening, exulting in it and lamenting the fact that it missed. Oh yeah, here he has it here. Congressman Bernie Thompson, who introduced that bill, his own field director has spelt out after the attempt exactly what the thinking was. She said, I don't condone violence, but please get you some shooting lessons so you don't miss next time. Oops, that wasn't me talking. This woman should never be employed anywhere ever again. So how about the recruitment of the sniper himself? This was also an inside job, albeit it was achieved in a way that could be anticipated statistically rather than the CIA directly going out and recruiting an individual. The process is known as stochastic terrorism. It says stochastic terrorism refers to the use of mass communication to incite random acts of violence that are statistically predictable but individually unpredictable. This term highlights how inflammatory rhetoric can lead to violence by motivating individuals to commit acts of terror without direct coordination. The term stochastic terrorism describes the phenomenon where language and communication are used to incite violent acts that cannot be predicted individually but can be anticipated statistically. And you get the idea. Stochastic terrorism works when the media, held the entire establishment root and branch, incites extreme hatred of Trump, thus inspiring lone actors to commit unpredictable yet statistically very probable assassination attempts. They did recruit the sniper in the open before our eyes, using overwhelmingly statistical likelihood their rhetoric would produce exactly this result. The formula for this inside job: create extreme rhetoric plus understaffed Trump's detail equals creates the optimal conditions for stochastic terrorism to occur. This could only produce a single outcome, and it was very deliberate. It was consciously and deliberately made. Biden told donors on a private call this afternoon, it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. The Biden regime played their part. The media played their part. The Secret Service played their part. The judiciary played their part. The entire establishment played their part. This was not a lone gunman. This was a complex organism all moving with a single purpose. They knew what they were moving towards. The CIA may not have prepped the sniper in person, but the organism knew exactly the result they all wanted. They are all culpable.
And even that is kind of a dubious statement.
What, that they didn't prep him directly?
Yeah, like I haven't looked into this. I haven't looked into this at all, but I have seen people talking about the fact that, okay, where does this dude who ostensibly doesn't have any job history, doesn't have any income, so like where's he getting this crazy expensive sniper rifle?
I think it actually wasn't expensive. It was a pretty I mean, I don't know guns like most of the guys in our circles do.
Yeah, right.
But
same here.
From the sound of it, it was just, who knows who put him up to it and what led to it and everything, but it was just a twinky little 20-year-old guy with greasy hair and pimples wearing cargo shorts, and you can see him. Like, there's video of it. You can see him laying up there and moving around and everything before it happened.
Okay. Well, John in the chat says Ruger 5.56 is what I've heard. That's cheap. Okay.
He was now his school. There's a video series or something that BlackRock has been producing that was filmed at his school, and he's on video. And then his parents are counselors, like social workers or something like that. Both of them.
Yeah, they did a good job.
Yes, but here's the thing, like, whether, again, this I think this point is so good about the stochastic terrorism, and that's sort of where you can have decentralized organization.
Yeah.
Where everyone is just playing their part in a larger picture that they may not even be aware of the extent to which that picture extends. And I think recognizing that fact goes a long ways toward, I think it tells us other stuff as well. Like, for example, the fact that they're trying to make something like this happen would indicate that they don't think that the election is all sealed up.
Yeah, right.
It seems like votes still count if you're trying to eliminate a particular candidate. If everything has already been eliminated, if he's been eliminated already and the votes don't count, then you wouldn't need something like this. You wouldn't need to create this sort of thing. Biden campaign pulling ads in wake of Trump rally shooting. President Biden's campaign says it's pausing all outbound communications and was working as quickly as possible to bring down its TV ads in the aftermath of the deadly shooting. So what does this tell you about the ads that they were going to be running? They recognize that the ads that they had queued up and ready to go were not going to land well at all after what happened. Which also indicates that it wasn't an explicitly coordinated thing. It wasn't an explicitly coordinated hit. It would be really nice and easy if it was, because that wouldn't indicate there needs to be absolute systemic overhaul. If it was an explicitly coordinated event, then you just have to identify the people who are involved in that coordination, and you could just do a big sweep and get them out. But it's the problem here is spiritual. It's not just like individual people who are corrupt. Okay, let's see what some of the other headlines are that I have here. Okay, there was just a list of all the shittiest ones. We already saw some of those. Let's see Eric Prince's take. He says, hopefully after the tragedy yesterday in Butler, Pennsylvania, we can all recognize that unaccountable, bloated bureaucracies continue to fail us as Americans. Donald J. Trump is alive today solely due to a bad wind estimate by an evil would-be assassin. As the graphics show, the full value of wind of just 5 miles per hour was enough to displace the unconfirmed but likely light 55-grain bullet 2 inches from DJT's intended forehead to his ear. DJT was not saved by Secret Service brilliance. The fact that Secret Service allowed a rifle-armed shooter within 150 yards to a pre-planned event is either malice or massive incompetence. Clearly, there was adequate, uncontrolled dead space for a shooter to move into position and take multiple aimed shots. Watching the newsreel, one can hear how proximate the shooter is by very short time lapse between the crack of arriving bullet, supersonic, to the boom of muzzle blast, sonic. The law enforcement sniper, unclear of Secret Service, in newsreels was clearly overwhelmed as his face came off his rifle instead of doing his job to kill the shooter. So there was the snipers who were visible behind Trump where you could see on some of the zoomed up stuff, it says police. So I think that probably indicates that these were local police snipers. And I don't know if the Secret Service guys would wear something that says police. One of our more well-connected fellows will have to weigh in. But those were not the guys who made the kill shot. He says clearly they were watching the shooter, but apparently have a no first shot policy. The only positive action was an apparent 488-yard shot. Now, here's the only person I've heard who has said this. I don't know if has anybody else heard this point being made, that it was one Secret Service sniper from 488 yards away, which dispatched the assassin, but after the assassin launched at least 5 rounds, wounding DJT and killing and severely, I think, wounding others in the crowd. Now, if Eric Prince is the only person saying it, I'm going to assume it's true. But I haven't heard anybody else point out that there was a 488-yard shot from one Secret Service sniper, and I don't know where he would have been. They would have been 488 yards away to make the shot. Because it was 150 yards from Trump, and then the snipers were right up on the roof behind him, so I think they were the same distance or closer. So the guys everyone has been seeing and pointing out that they were sitting up there with their snipers on the roof, those were not the guys who made the kill. It was one sniper from further away. In my old business of providing diplomatic security in 2 active war zones, we were expected to execute the basics or we would be fired. Clearly, Secret Service failed at the basics of a secure perimeter, and once shots were fired, their extraction was clumsy and left DJT highly exposed to follow-on attacks. It looked like they had never drilled together because those responses should be effectively autonomic. Will there be accountability? That's not the Washington way. Unserious and unworthy people in positions of authority got us to this near disaster. Merit and execution must be the only deciding factors in hiring and leadership, not the social engineering priority of the day. Sadly, nothing in Washington reflects that any longer. DJT is right to question the competence of those protecting him because yesterday they failed in almost every way. Nature abhors a vacuum and there are always other options. Most importantly, as Americans, let's come together and run a proper valid election so we can get back to what matters, a merit-based society that judges on character and skill, nothing else. So here's the image here. So Trump, he shot this direction. So for him to get up on the roof, he had to walk right along here. And there was just people crowded all over here. This was full of people. So he walked past here and came over here and climbed up a ladder and scrambled up on top of the roof, carrying a rifle. And there was people who were standing here who were like, hey, they saw this dude walking in the grass and they're like, hey, why is this dude walking around with a rifle? What's going on? They're like flagging down the police. And apparently there was some sort of a standoff between the police and the Secret Service, which makes me wonder, you have the police who are saying, hey, something's going on here. And Secret Service is like, well, hold on. And this is where you can have one single person who understands what's happening and even just chooses to delay temporarily. That's all they have to do is they just have to create a little confusion, delay for a couple of minutes, and at least give him the opportunity to get the shot off. And then you kill him, and then but you feel like you've done the duty for your country. So here's where the shooter was, and he climbed up and shot over here to Trump. This back here is where the snipers were. The snipers that have been caught on video were here. So I'm guessing the other sniper must have been over here, and he made this shot here. Because I'd imagine this direction doesn't seem like this would have been 488 yards away. This one might have been, but I don't know why they would be posted up here and not here. And this guy would have had a better angle at him from the side. So this must have been where the actual sniper was who took him out. There's another view. So Trump was standing right here. This guy climbed up here and shot from on top of the roof. Shot across this way, and the grandstands went in like a U shape around here like this. So the guy who was shot and killed, the New Jersey fire chief guy, was right over here. And there's a video out there. I retweeted it last night. It's like 11 minutes long of some guy filming for hours beforehand, walking around among the people, highlighting where the roof was. And then he was standing, I don't know, 5 rows in front of the guy who was shot. And so he turned around and he captured a lot of the immediate aftermath of it. So anyone who's like saying that, oh, it was fake, it didn't happen, like you can literally watch the whole thing happening like on video right in front of you. So there was a lot of calls yesterday for Eric Prince to be vice president. There was and calls from very prominent people. Eric Prince is his estimation in the eyes of important people went up significantly yesterday, if for no other reason than because of the number and magnitude of people who were highlighting him and talking about him like we need Eric Prince to be in charge of Trump's protection detail. And knowing what I know of Eric Prince and the people who he's connected with, I wouldn't be surprised if some sort of overture in that direction is being made. Mr. West for a $1.99 super chat. He says, thank you for radicalizing me, Matt and Cooper. You're welcome, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay. What else do we got here? Oh, yeah, here's the video of the guy crawling around on the roof. From DC Drano tweeted it out. New Trump assassin video shows him crawling on the roof while multiple people point him out to police. They yelled about him for almost an entire minute. It's insane how Secret Service allowed this amateur to almost kill Trump.
He was doing the job. I wouldn't even be doing this. I get some beautiful places to go to the ocean.
Look, they're all pointing.
The Atlantic, maybe the Pacific.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. Gary is right there. Right there, see him? He's laying down. See him?
Yeah, he's
right
laying
here.
down.
And still I'm here with you fighting cartel to get a senator.
What's happening?
And to make sure we take back the White House, because if we do, we're going to make America better than ever before. We're going to make it.
Yeah, look.
And it's
There he
not
is.
easy, because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people, criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here.
Right on the
And
roof.
it's much tougher than it happens.
You went right on the roof, big guy.
He was doing the job. I wouldn't even be
And
doing
you can
this. I
see
get some beautiful places to go to the ocean.
Right
Look,
at
they're
the
all pointing.
beginning,
The Atlantic, maybe the Pacific.
cops are right here. They're all circling around the building, looking at the roof.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look.
So at that point, the cops are even already aware that he's there. Before the people who are calling it out and trying to point at him, they're looking around trying to figure out what's going on. Okay. Let's see what else I've got here. So I've got some stuff on the Democrats' response, the vibe shift. I want to make sure that I've covered. Oh, there's the Milo tweet. We'll read the Milo tweet. Share this tab.
I'm going to go get some more coffee. BRB.
Sounds good. Cooper's the one that sent this to me, so he knows the thread here. He said, it's been obvious since 2016 that Trump carries an anointing of some kind. My American friends, are you so blind to reason and deaf to heaven? Can he do all this and cannot get a crown? This man is your king. Coronate him and watch every devil shriek and every demon howl. No country lacks a sovereign. Some know who rule over them, others do not. It is better to know your king's name than to live clueless as an ox, sacrificing your sons and paying tithes at the barrel of a gun to who or whatever lurks behind these stars or those stripes. No king is Christ on earth but our Lord, yet imperfect mortals can make us better. Her late majesty was adored for embodying British virtue, humility, restraint, dignity, service. In Trump, we see the best of America distilled. He is fearless, ingenious, confident, and brave. Monarchy is an earthly reflection of the divine hierarchy. It is the Christian form of government. Citizenship under capitalism is slavery to masters unknown who lie to you, experiment on you, violate you, kill your children for financial engorgement, and then gloat about it. America depends upon a moral and religious people. Elizabeth II taught morality by example. Maniacs were neatly and reliably identified by their allergic reaction to God Save the Queen. Equally good a heuristic for fingering America's enemies, raw hatred of Donald Trump. I was going to make a comment on fingering America's enemies, but I'll leave it. Speech without consequence and ready access to instruments of death is too much freedom for any man but a church-going Christian who demonstrates restraint and responsibility, that is, fitness for freedom, through fidelity to his king. He knows life is God's to take, not his. Donald Trump and his glories and his shortcomings is America. He would make an ideal and splendid king, an eccentric father figure at home and a roaring lion to the world. His family seems ideally suited to become a royal dynasty. As you would say in local dialect, just do it. You designed a country for Christians, but you have a country of retards. You can reimagine and re-engineer the future, or you can just leave it to fate. But I have to warn you, like most pagan deities, she can be a real cunt. Like the most Milo thread of all time. Did you have any thoughts when you sent that to me yesterday, Cooper? Or did you just think it would be good content for the show?
I thought it'd just be good. I like having Milo back on Twitter.
I do too. I can't help liking him. I just do.
Yeah.
Fully aware of all of his foibles.
Yep. He's just fun. It's just fun having him around.
Yep. I'm gonna scroll through here for a minute. Do we have any updates right now on the VP thing? Supposedly it's going to be leaked today. I have no idea if it's going to happen like right now while we're on the air, but
I'm not seeing anything yet.
Okay. I'm going to scroll through some of my other things here that I didn't open. I had so many tabs open that there was no point in opening more. Scott Adams said, for all the voters who secretly wanted to support Trump but could not sell it to their friends and families, the assassination attempt is the ultimate fake because, meaning it is a highly defensible position. And you could see this happening. Actually, the next two threads here, or the next two comments I've got, make the point. So James Ingalanera says, the dam broke for me and many others today. I live in San Francisco where it's a social death sentence to voice support for Trump. Regardless, I will be voting for Trump this election and will voice my support publicly and unabashedly. Social and financial consequences be damned. A very serious line was crossed today. This guy, Deep Prasad, says, agreed. Fuck the stigma, fuck the judgment, fuck all the virtue signaling cancellation bullshit the left likes to weaponize. You demand, Deep. Real knows real. Now I kind of want to have one Pajit friend just so I can call him Deep. I don't care what his name is. I'm just going to call him Deep. Steve Hilton says it's crazy that it needs to be said that this is brave, but it is. Now let's talk about changing things in San Francisco and across California too. What's this guy? So 250,000 followers, host of the Steve Hilton Show, positive populism, co-founder, Let's Fight for the California Dream. So this is a phenomenon that was happening big time yesterday. Oh, God, I hate it when it does this. All right, well, I guess we're just going to... Oh, here. I'd saved this one the other day. We could fit this in here right now. Remember when this is what it was like?
Well, then wait a minute. Then the follow-up... I'm sorry, John.
You heard my answer. Go ahead.
Well, since it's Jim, I'll let it go.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to challenge you on one of the statements that you made in the tail end of the campaign.
Remember this guy?
Here we go.
Jim Acosta. Remember when this guy was like the grifter extraordinaire for a couple of years, constantly feuding with Trump? And it was always really hard to tell to what extent this was sincere and to what extent the dude is just incredibly good at playing this role and maximizing on it, and Trump kind of enjoyed it. This was, I think, probably the most heated that it ever got between them.
If you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr. President,
I consider it to be an invasion.
As you know, Mr. President, the caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with the U.S.
Thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it.
Why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of opinion.
But do you think that you demonized immigrants
in
this election to try to keep...
I want them to come into the country, but they have to come in legally. You know, they have to come in, Jim, through a process. I want it to be a process, and I want people to come in, and we need the people.
Your campaign...
Wait. You know why we need the people, don't you? Because we have hundreds of companies moving in. We need the people.
But your campaign had an ad showing migrants climbing over walls and so on.
Well, that's true. They weren't actors.
They're not going to be doing that.
They weren't actors. Well, no, it's true. Do you think they were actors? They weren't actors. They didn't come from Hollywood. These were people. This was an actual, it happened a few days ago. And
they're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President,
that's
I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President,
that's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other question, if I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have?
I'm not concerned about anything with the Russian investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
It's interesting to think now about what, like, imagine the I don't know, the weight, the gravity that Trump is going to carry around him now. Like, imagine the next press conference with him. It's going to be very quickly. It's not going to be fashionable to be really hostile to him anymore. And that's going to become an increasingly smaller and smaller and more radical group of people who are still willing to actually be hostile to him in public. The man has been granted the mandate from heaven. And you don't have to be consciously aware of that to sense it. People will be able to sense that in his aura. It's up to him to live up to it. He may not. I don't know. The arc of history definitely seems to be bending toward him living up to it. Like you said, we got a really clear picture of his character. When he went down, like, how many, just out of all of the human beings in the world, how many, what fractional percentage do you think would respond the way he did? They wouldn't hit the deck and, like, belly crawl off the stage and flip down and crawl underneath it. Like, not just having someone shooting at you, like shooting when you're in this big exposed place, but literally feeling a bullet whiz past your head and clip your ear. There's also been there's pictures, I don't know if they've been substantiated or not, of him. You could see, like, it looks like a hole in his, like, breast pocket. So I don't know if he was wearing a vest and he got hit in the chest as well. I kind of feel like it would have taken him out a lot more, taking one of the vests like that. But who knows what sort of vests they have that can, I don't know, dampen the effect of it. Who knows? But either way, to have the presence of mind to not freak the fuck out and try to get the hell out of there, that is a unique type of person. Just that far. To maintain your cool enough to be carried off the stage, and then to fight through it and to fist pump and to be fist pumping all the way to the... There's no question about his character. Zero question whatsoever.
You want to talk shit about the Kabbalah dudes?
Oh my God. I don't even want to highlight them. We'll talk about them. I don't want to give them any more explicit, I don't know, focus. But this goes to the guys that Pete was talking to at the beginning. Like the people who think the thing to take from this is to try to drill down into the conspiracy. And, it's all planned, and it's all this is the thing that Cooper's referring to is there was a sniper. I guess some people may not be aware of this. So the sniper that was in the background, that was caught in the background, he had a red bracelet on. And do you know, that means he's a Jew. It's a Kabbalah bracelet. There's literally no other reason someone might wear a red bracelet. Just literally every single time anything happens, we have to find a person wearing a red bracelet. And if someone's wearing a red bracelet, that means the Jews are at work. Your guys' minds have been absolutely melted by the internet.
Yeah.
Stop talking in public. Go away. This is... How do I get... it's this one here. Martyr Maid. It doesn't matter if Trump is our guy. He's the guy of the people, like Cory Comparatore. The people our politics is meant to support, and that should be enough. That should be good enough. This is such a profound opportunity for realigning messaging and amplifying the right things and not amplifying the gay retarded things. And if your angle in all of this wants to be, let's see to what extent we can prop up the Jews and the Illuminati and all the evil people, your mind is broken.
Yeah.
You don't know what time it is. This is a LARP to you. What's your take on it?
It's just brain rot, man. Like, these people are their minds are just so poisoned. And they're just like, they've built this whole edifice and they've totally become captured by it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Medgold who said I think it was Medgold who said on Twitter, like, he highlighted this person in question that we're talking about who's the Jew's red bracelet. And I think he called him, like, the blue-haired tranny of the right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's a good way of describing these people.
Mm-hmm.
You've lost your mind. That is an example of going too far.
It's such a fantastic opportunity to share things like this.
Yeah, right.
The boys trying to get me in the car after Applebee's cuts off my $1 Long Island iced teas. Here's another one. Stepfany. I really hope her name is not Stepfany. Not exactly your picture of a Trump poster on Twitter. She says, graduated in 2012 with a degree in women's studies. Cried in 2016 when Trump got elected. Lost touch with the Dems somewhere around Me Too. Discovered entrepreneurship. Updated my voter registration in 2018 but didn't tell anyone. Told myself I was a single-issue voting centrist. The last 6 to 12 months I've believed I was going to abstain from voting in the upcoming election because the options are equally terrible. But watching Trump survive an assassination attempt and act like a total fucking savage just shifted me into some strange patriotic gear that my fancy feminism, white man, bad infected brain never showed me. Like, the dude took a bullet and stood up with blood dripping down his face and rallied a fucking crowd while fist pumping, yelling, fight. Sorry, but I'm voting for that. And saying it out loud feels so freeing. 2012 Stephanie would be pissed, but that's okay because 2012 Stephanie didn't know shit. This is her saying it feels so good to be out of the closet. And look, fucking 39 million views. This is the sort of sentiment that is building, that this sort of situation has created. Oh my God, I hate this fucking thing. And turning that into, like, what was it John in here said? He said to talk conspiracy is to hand the narrative right back to the left. Right, like, just take the narrative when it's offered to you. Take the win. You can focus on all of the evil behind the scenes, or you could focus on the fucking phenomenal narrative winning opportunity. There are many hearts and minds available to be captured right now. This is the sort of event where hearts and minds actually matter. The opposite of that would be what the Rhode Island State Police decided to do. So this was the next day. The Rhode Island State Police is in close contact with local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies, and our Fusion Center works 24/7 to synthesize intelligence and provide us with actionable information. We have no reason to believe that the incident in Pennsylvania has any connection to Rhode Island. This guy was like, well, neither did I, but now that you put this out, I have questions. What would possibly compel someone to tweet that?
Guilty conscience.
Yeah, right. Tell the story about your daughters.
Oh yeah, the youngest one had some. Okay, so when we were hanging out at the American Legion, I don't know, a number of months ago, we were playing the pull tabs, and my youngest was tearing apart the pull tabs and won $100. So she had a bunch of cash that she was, hanging out in her wallet, which we should probably do something with, but she's just been using it as like play money or whatever. In any case, a couple months ago, the oldest one just starts randomly saying, like, oh, I've got $40. Hey, look, I've got money. Can I get this thing? Can I get like a Yeti water bottle or whatever she wants? She's like, I've got money. I didn't take it from the youngest one. She's like, I didn't take it from them. I was like, well, I kind of think you did now that you said that.
That's Rhode Island State Police.
Yeah, my mind didn't immediately go to like, oh, you've got some money. Yeah, like I was, oh, well, where did that come from? But my first, I wasn't like, oh, you took it from your little sister. But when you said like, I didn't take it from my little sister, I'm like, oh, okay, I know where it came from.
Okay. So I think that was all the rest of the tabs I'd highlighted. I see stuff and I think it's great, and I throw it into the I almost forgot this one. This one will fuck you guys up. I'll finish a show and I'll be like, oh man, I forgot about that one. Okay. All right, I think that's it. So I've got a bunch here. First of all, this guy is an absolute trip.
Saw an attempt on his life. This bullet flew by his ear, and it came so close to his head that it busted his eardrum. And I saw he fell to his knees during this time frame, and he started worshiping the Lord. He got radically born again during this time frame. I'm talking. People say he's saved now, but he becomes really on fire for Jesus, for what I saw coming. And then I saw people interceding when I saw him winning the presidency through great. The Lord showed me it would go clear into the summer. Great persecution would come on him through the judges and through the law and all these people trying to sue him and all this stuff. But there would be a stop to it, and things would start to break free come toward the fall. And then I saw him winning the election through the Patriots coming out and voting, and then there will be a great economy crash. Yeah. I saw they had a great economy plan, a crash. Yeah. Worse than the Great Depression. And the Lord warned me about this. It would be a great dark time. But I saw paddles coming upon America's soil like a shocking of the soil. And I saw Donald Trump praying in the office of the Oval Office, and he was weeping before the Lord with his hands on his head like this, but he was weeping. And there was ministers and people. I don't know if they were senators or Congress people or whatever. I just saw them pacing and back and forth inside of the White House. I'm sorry, what is the White House? But it's the Oval Office. Yeah. And they were interceding all inside there, and I could feel the presence of the Lord so strong on this. And then I could see that darkness that was the heaviness upon America with the financial crisis of what I saw coming. It started to lift above the trees, and I saw the blue and the things coming back out, and the green times and the good times coming back again. But the Lord said it would be forth a time of a season of a shaking, and it would be a shaking to awaken. And in this, this would basically that He was not done with America. There would be a great revival come, and it's not all doom and gloom. That's what He said. The sky's not falling. There's a time of, it's like people would say, this is judgment. And the Lord said, do not call this judgment. It's not my judgment. It's a correction. There's correction coming.
So this was posted. I actually remember when this came out. Someone had put it across my timeline, and I watched it and was just like forgotten about it. I was like, all right, whatever, just some loon. And man, so this was 3 months ago. Like CB said in the chat, the longer he talks, the more credit I actually give him, though. If you guys watched that or listened to that Stormy Daniels, I always do that, Stormy Waters and Space Age Maximalist podcast, so here's the thing. There are people who can do this. There are people who can remote view, astral project, whatever you want to call it. They're doing something. But what notoriously happens with all these things is they don't know what they're seeing. They can describe it in sort of these weird kind of ethereal terms, but they don't have they're sort of seeing illusions, seeing vaguely, but they're seeing something. I don't doubt that he's
hearing guys like this coming from my Pentecostal background is just full of guys like this, and hearing them talk just makes my eyes roll back. I want to put a gun in my mouth.
Right. The detail though that he gives is the two things that stand out to me. One of those is the ear thing. So like he says he was hit. It causes eardrum to burst. So he saw something that was the ear, and the way he understands it is his eardrum. Maybe Trump's eardrum did burst. I don't know, but
I think he said earlobe.
He said eardrum.
Oh, okay.
But this is the sort of thing that this is where how if you assume that this is an authentic experience that he's relating, and he's interpreting it through however he saw it, then that's the sort of way that, something happened to his ear. It was his eardrum. Well, actually, it was he got shot in the ear. It took off part of his ear. But yeah, this was posted 3 months ago. John MC says this is actually documented as published 3 months ago, and we only just now hear it. You could see in the screenshot here that I watched it on the YouTube video where this was posted, and it was posted 3 months ago. I just now, like yesterday when I saved this, I first saw it. Someone linked to the YouTube thing, and I went and watched it there, the longer clip. But it is actually posted 3 months ago. Also, John MC said, anyone know why his shoes were taken off? He kept saying, let me get my shoes on. He said afterwards that the Secret Service hit him so hard that it knocked his shoes off. And someone else, when I asked that on Twitter, someone else said, you'd be surprised how often people get their shoes knocked off in these sorts of situations, which is kind of funny to think about.
It is kind of true, though. You watch videos of people getting, on Twitter, and a lot of the time their shoes fall off. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, and Trump said, my shoes are on tight, too. Which is like,
of course he did.
Most Trumpian thing ever. Okay, let's see some of the other things that I've got here. I think are all related to the reaction. I don't want to highlight that one. I had one of the shitty people, but we don't need to talk about the shit-eating mud people.
What are we talking about? We talking about the libs?
Yeah. So, okay. Scott Pressler, I've talked to you guys about Scott Pressler before. This is an example of the type of thing you can do right now. So Scott Pressler, who's weaponizing his large audience, 1.5 million followers on Twitter, he says, meet Tony Bendele. Reportedly, he's a firefighter in Sunbury, Pennsylvania. After the assassination attempt, he wrote on Facebook, too bad it didn't hit him square. When the public saw his despicable comment, he doubled down. It would be a shame if Pennsylvanians called. And then, so this was posted yesterday at 10 p.m. And this morning at 9 a.m., he said, update, Tony Bendele posted to Facebook that he's resigning from the firehouse. If a firefighter or anyone in public safety thinks what happened to Trump is all right, they shouldn't be in a position of authority. I fully endorse this. People were posting Destiny's docs yesterday, and I don't know how YouTube feels about talking about this kind of thing. So I will just say that doxing someone is a very, very serious thing to do that has very serious consequences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you should never do that.
Yes,
never
absolutely. You absolutely should not take somebody's private information, their contact, their address, their phone number, and publicly post it on the internet so that people can sign the guy up for spam and like send lots of pizzas to his house to be paid for in cash. Just every single pizza company in the city. That's such an awful thing to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible.
Don't do that.
Really hope none of you would ever consider doing such a disruptive thing. So this is yesterday evening. A senior House Democrat told Axios, we've all resigned ourselves to a second Trump presidency.
Yeah, as John says. I mean, think of all the harm you might do to that person. Right.
You
can't do that. Yeah, these people no one should ever have to face consequences for the things they say and do. And, for facilitating the mess that we're in and creating this awful world we live in.
Mm-hmm.
No one should ever have to face consequences for doing that.
It would be absolutely terrible if a lot of people who didn't have anything better to do decided to go spend time mocking and shaming and humiliating these people out of the public square. It would be a real shame if people did that.
Mm-hmm. Don't do it.
Congressional Democrats' all-consuming angst over President Biden's candidacy has taken an abrupt backseat in lawmakers' minds in the wake of an assassination attempt against former President Trump. So now they're actually saying it. Why it matters. Democratic lawmakers say their immediate focus is on their personal security and that of their staffs, not on their party's political woes, hoping to allow a crucial cool-down period for the embattled president. Now, from the perspective of one of these Democrats, I can guarantee you that this is not bullshit. I can guarantee you that every elected Democrat official, when this happened, oh shit, okay. Because many of them are genuinely aware of the capacity of people out there. And I would say 100%, you should not validate their fears. Don't do that. You're handing them ammunition on a silver platter. Do not give them ammunition. But I guarantee you that when this happened, a chill went down their spine. Because those gears start turning and they're someone of consequence. If you're some random dude sitting in your house, you may not think about this, but for them...
Oh, they had the same feeling that we had when we first found out.
Yes. We're all just focused on expressing condolences and keeping our team safe, said one House Democrat who's been fiercely critical of Biden. A senior House Democrat suggested the post-shooting atmosphere in the party is too chaotic for internal battles over leadership. Biden was engaged in a high-stakes outreach campaign to Capitol Hill in the hours leading up to the shooting at Trump's rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, which left a bystander and the shooter dead. As part of an effort to stop the flow of statements urging him to end his re-election bid, Biden met Saturday afternoon with the Congressional Progressive Caucus and the center-left New Democrat coalition. The latter call was described by lawmakers present as tense and a disaster for the president, who they said was combative in the face of questions about how he plans to turn around his flagging campaign. That call came after Biden was told by Representative Mike Levin during a call with Hispanic caucus members that he should drop out of the race. Biden also met with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer in Delaware on Saturday, with Schumer calling it a good meeting. In a Face the Nation interview on Sunday morning, Rep. Jason Crow, Democrat from Colorado, largely pulled his punches despite Biden shouting at him on the New Democrats' call after he asked about eroding public confidence in the president's leadership. Listen, this is a tough business. There's a lot at stake. Emotions can run high, he said of the call on CBS. He added, I think the president heard our message very clearly, and in fact, he promised to come back to us with more information to address our concerns and to answer our questions. Dean Phillips, who ran a primary campaign against Biden based around concerns over his electability, suggested he's sticking to his strategic post-debate silence about Biden's candidacy. An American is dead, a former president and others are wounded, and a shell-shocked country is left wondering how to restore reason and respect. It would be unpatriotic and unprincipled to direct energy to anything other than yesterday's national tragedy over the coming days. The only conversation about President Biden should be about how he can console our country, address the anger, and meet the moment. Bunch of nonsense. Bunch of nothing. Another Biden skeptical Democrat asked about lingering questions about the president's candidacy, told Axios, I don't think that's the focus right now. Biden is adopting a similar posture, with his campaign pulling ads in the immediate aftermath of the shooting and the president condemning the shooting and calling Trump personally. Biden's visit to Austin, Texas, which was scheduled for Monday, will be postponed. Thank goodness. Most lawmakers who spoke to Axios said it is too early to say whether the cessation intentions will last until the Democratic National Convention next month, but the second senior House Democrat offered one reason for why it might. We've all resigned ourselves to a second Trump presidency. Like everybody came to that conclusion at the same time. This was posted yesterday. John Ekdahl said why the replace Biden campaign likely came to an end last night. They no longer believe it even matters. And from thing, he says, quoting, we're so beyond fucked, one longtime Democratic insider said, noting that the image of Trump thrusting his fist in the air with blood dramatically smeared across his face will be indelible. The presidential contest ended last night, said a veteran Democratic consultant who spoke on the condition of anonymity to give a candid assessment of his own party's standing less than 4 months before the election. Now it's time to focus on keeping the Senate and trying to pick up the House, he said. The only positive thing to come out of last night for Democrats is that we're no longer talking about Joe Biden's age today. And I can hear the cynics saying, oh, it bailed them out. It bailed them out. Now they don't have to talk. They don't have to deal with that. They can just run Biden. It didn't bail them out. It made it so it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I remember a week ago, what was that article you read about the positive plan for, I don't know, the DNC slipping someone in there? Like, none of that matters anymore.
Yeah, it just... So here's a prediction. I got a couple more things here to share, but I'll make a prediction right now. I was thinking about this the night of, went out for a walk, And one thing that was clear to me is that there's going to be the effect of having an event like that happen. And the people who would normally just get all their news from the news, they're not plugged into Twitter. They're not connected to people who are immediately updating them on everything. They're just like turning the TV on and whatever. Seeing there's going to be such a massive discordance in the media's presentation of what happened and what actually happened, that for many people, there's always going to be the cutoff. There's always going to be the carve out of people who don't matter. There's not even worth talking about them. They're the ones who are posting like, oh man, he should have missed. It's too bad he missed or whatever. Like those people, they're not even worth talking about. Nothing changes them. But a significant number of people just had their faith in the corporate press completely destroyed yesterday or 2 days ago. There's a larger shift in demand now for alternative news sources than probably any single event in recent history. There's been a lot of things that have eroded trust in the legacy media. But if it could have gotten lower, it did.
What?
And I'll go so far as to predict, as I'm thinking about this, I can't.
No, I will.
I can't think around this in any other way. I don't see how the press doesn't become openly, between now and the election, the press doesn't shift to becoming, if not openly sympathetic, at least accepting of Trump. Because at this point, some sort of election where Biden comes out with 100 million votes and wins, there is an overwhelming percentage of the population that's not going to believe that. That's not going to accept that. They're going to recognize that, and it's going to destroy any little inkling of hope or belief they had in the existing system. So for the sake of their own self-preservation, I don't see how the legacy media doesn't really change their entire focus. Like, this gives them an opportunity to just dial everything back and fully accept and begin endorsing him. This is their only option now. Their only option now is completely take him on board and then try to pacify his ego and massage him that way to try to get him to do whatever they want him to do. The serious people in the room recognize the inevitability of this now. And it's very easy to make that just about face in terms of posture and content, given the magnitude of what happened to him. It's very justifiable. It'll seem completely natural to people. Like, we look back a year from now and it's like, oh, that's when they got Trump sympathetic. And everything is just completely cooled down and is just kind of chill. And I'm not saying this as like copium, because I almost don't want that. Because that's the way that everything gets neutered, that everything gets dialed down, and nothing substantial actually happens. If they keep the pressure turned up between now and the election, that's an acceleration cycle that nobody is going to survive. And anybody who has any sense of self-preservation is going to be looking for off-ramps from that. And they just got a big one. Here's one indication that this may be the case. This is new as of this morning. MSNBC has pulled Morning Joe show off the air after Trump rally shooting. They're reportedly worried the Morning Joe crew might say something inappropriate about the Trump assassination attempt. A screenshot from a reliable source's post. It says the decision by MSNBC to leave one of its most recognizable programs on the sidelines amid a seismic politics-driven news cycle, with the Republican National Convention getting underway in the wake of the Saturday shooting at Trump's campaign rally, is certain to raise eyebrows. A person familiar with the matter told CNN that the decision was made to avoid a scenario in which one of the show's stable of 24+ guests might make an inappropriate comment on live television that could be used to assail the program and network as a whole. Given the breaking news nature of the story, the person said, it made more sense to continue airing rolling breaking news coverage in the fraught political moment.
It drives me insane when they say a person familiar with the matter. Like, in other words, I just made this up.
Yeah. There's actually some sources, when they give a statement, they identify how they want to be identified. And there's actually a technical definitions for some of these terms. I've seen it broken down by people before, that when you're dealing with off-the-record sources, there's a what's the term? There's like a convention for how to refer to them based on who their what their relationship is to the situation. But I think it's difficult to get into the mind of a normie, but when you get into the mind of a normie, these types of moves are really significant. We're just going to pull this show off the air. Right when we would get the best ratings imaginable, we're just going to pull the show off the air. Why are they fearing that someone might make an inappropriate comment? If you're the decision maker at NBC or MSNBC, and you're making this call because you're afraid someone's going to make an inappropriate comment, or that's the justification that you're going to provide. Like, what sort of situation do you have to be in where this is the justification that you provide for why you're pulling the show off the air? That's a massive decision. To me, it says something about them not trusting the consensus. They have a doubt that they're not unified in their messaging because they recognize how much fracturing there is among their people. And they don't want to inflame things with Trump. That would be like, what sort of inappropriate thing would someone say? Well, it would be something that would be inflammatory toward Trump. And they recognize that that's not good publicity. They don't want that kind of publicity. Why? Presumably, they recognize they can read the temperature in the room, and they recognize now is the time to make peace with Trump. Now is when Trump becomes inevitable, and it's time to start trying to cover ourselves as much as possible and protect ourselves from embrace for whatever's coming. Because he's coming. Oh shit, what up? Here come that boy. There's a meme for you. Someone go make that. Some thoughts from Aristophanes. He says, he's quoting AOC, who was quoting the thing we just read from Jake Tapper about the senior House Democrat saying we've all resigned ourselves to a second Trump presidency. AOC says, if you're a senior Democrat that feels this way, you should absolutely retire and make space for true leadership that refuses to resign themselves to fascism. This kind of leadership is functionally useless to the American people. Retire. Gives you an idea of where the rift is. Where which people are gravitating to in one direction and which people are gravitating in the other direction. Whoever's running MSNBC doesn't want people of AOC's ilk and the perspective she represents being associated with them. They're distancing themselves from that. Aristo says they aren't resigning themselves to that out of sentimentality, but out of realism. Democrats have three options and are still arguing about which one sucks the least because they all suck. 1, keep Biden and lose. 2, run Kamala and lose even worse. 3, usurp them at the DNC and lose all that fundraising inertia and have to build a presidential campaign from scratch over whoever the superdelegates decide to go with only a few months left. On top of the infighting that will occur by various camps who think their candidate is the best candidate. The DNC is probably going to go with option 1, which is run Biden and lose, and shift all their fundraising and rally efforts into shoring up at-risk down-ballot races to stem the bleeding because they're going to lose pretty damn bad at this rate. There is no path to victory for the DNC. We already saw how option 4 worked out for you guys because the left can't shoot. And then one other interesting news bit that dropped today is that the classified documents case against Trump was dropped. And I saw a lot of people predicting this after one of the SCOTUS decisions from a couple weeks ago kind of foretold that this may happen. I want to say that it was in one of the things Clarence Thomas wrote, where he called into question the legitimacy of the appointment of the special counsel to investigate Trump's documents case. And apparently, I don't know all the details of all this. You can go find someone else to give you the deep nerdery on it. But apparently, his appointment to special counsel was like blatantly unconstitutional. Just would never even stand up. So that case was dismissed on the basis of essentially they have no standing, because the special prosecutor who was appointed, Jack Smith, who was appointed by Merrick Garland, was not appointed properly, and the money that was set aside to fund this investigation was not assigned properly. So it was a completely illegitimate thing. Court threw it out. So this was Trump having classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. This was the thing that justified the raid of Mar-a-Lago by the FBI, where they were given the green light to use deadly force. All that whole case was just dismissed. We've been saying this for months, that everything is going to fall away from Trump. We don't know exactly how it's going to happen, but he is inevitable. It's very clear he has the mandate from heaven. Certain men in certain eras are just handpicked by God. Who knows for what, and who knows if they ever actually live up to that? But it's very clear that the hand of providence is on Trump. So the last thing that I had here was something on this Jack Smith thing from General Mike Flynn. He says, breaking, given the recent decision by Judge Cannon regarding prosecutor Jack Smith's classified documents case, the following can now be stated. 1. A filed whistleblower complaint has Smith and other members close to him inside the DOJ under serious investigation by the DOJ OIG. So the Office of the Inspector General for the DOJ. He says, yes, there are some good guys, but we'll see. Number 2, deposed witnesses, part of this whistleblower complaint, have been offered massive bribes to back off their statements by apparently Americans, to be named later. The bribes are north of $25 million. You read that right. So the special prosecutor who was appointed by Merrick Garland to go after Trump in this case, there is a filed whistleblower complaint that has them under serious investigation. The investigation hasn't been publicly announced, but it is there, and he's claiming that it's not that there's actually sincere good people who are prosecuting this. If that actually pans out that way, TBD. And as part of this, whoever is making this complaint about him has been bribed massive amounts of money to back down. And that's part of what's being investigated. And it's supposedly Americans who have been doing that. Number 3, I'm told Judge Cannon had either requested or received a copy of this whistleblower complaint. I have zero idea if she actually received it or read it, but this is some of the information I've been made aware of. This has been an ongoing investigation for well over a year now, led by very credible investigators, and the public whistleblower complaint was posted back in December. Go find it. Number 5, this has been pressed very hard thanks to Patrick Byrne. Without his patience and support, the investigation and the legal and very public filing would not have occurred. Number 4, be prepared for more on this very serious case, which stands in history to be one of the most egregious abuses of authority within the Department of Justice. If the truth plays out here, the second and third order effects could very well prove to be stunning to America's national security. Number 7, the media hasn't covered one iota of this, no surprise here. For America to move forward, the rot must be removed and the corruption must be publicly called out and eliminated, more to follow. So I think the difference with something like this happening now versus happening, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago is public sentiment is turning very strongly against the regime. It's becoming abundantly clear to a lot of people that this is not simply, mistakes being made by negligence, that there is actually hostile people within the regime who are seeking to subvert the sanctity of American institutions. Regardless of how absurd that is on its face to you, recognize that this is a really big deal to the people who are becoming aware of this, and to whom they're now seeing these as vectors for opportunities for them to insinuate themselves or their own people into the positions of power. So there are very cynical reasons why wealthy, powerful people now want to see opportunities like this. They're willing to consider things that they weren't willing to consider before because power is up for grabs. That's what this whole thing has done, is it has thrown a tremendous amount of power up for grabs. And there's a lot of people who have been working on stuff behind the scenes who now may have opportunities to push this stuff out in the open and rally support behind it. So who knows if this will actually go anywhere? I'm inclined to say it probably doesn't. It probably turns into basically a nothing burger like a lot of these things have. But on its face, the details of something like this and the fact that the case was dismissed with something like this out there, like all of these things are unprecedented. Having the regime pivot itself to backing Trump and the things that that is required of them to do to make that happen is going to change the playing field significantly. Okay, I haven't been keeping up with the comments, but apparently there was something going on.
Oh, just king salmon fish being annoying, so I put him in timeout.
Oh, perfect. Duffhead, imagine spurging all over a chat that doesn't give a flying fuck about what you say. Good. I'm glad to see you guys dunking on him. All right. Well, do we have any updates on the VP thing? I would imagine if it had been announced that it would have been dropped in the chat already.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. Convention starts in 1 minute.
Oh, well then, perhaps it will be announced here shortly. Charles Haywood just tweeted, "The regime has lost control of the narrative. Control of the narrative is necessary for power. The only way to reset the narrative is a total change in focus. Therefore, I expect a regime attempt to start a hot war with Russia before November 5. In parentheses, must stop predicting." He's another one of those guys that his record has been very good lately. So, yeah, it's tough to... When he predicts something, I'll take it seriously. Sean
Anything
Davis.
else?
One last thing here. Sean Davis says, pretty crazy how an assassin was given a free shot at Donald Trump after Biden's debate collapsed, but right before Donald Trump announced his VP and was formally nominated as the GOP presidential candidate. It's almost as if the whole thing was engineered not just to eliminate Trump, but to require an entirely new ticket free of any Trump influence whatsoever. And then it just so happened the shooter is the only person in the entire country without any social media or online footprint whatsoever. And the FBI, after whole minutes of effort, just couldn't figure out how to crack his phone. What a series of very strange coincidences. It's already got 1.3 million views, and he tweeted it 2 hours ago. All righty.
Will in the chat says, both of you pick who you'd like most as VP, and then who you'd realistically think it'd be. What do you think?
I would... Go ahead. Give your answer.
Well, then I have a follow-up question is like, okay, if you could pick anybody from history, who would you pick?
So, well,
I don't follow this stuff closely enough to be able to answer the second question of who I think it'd realistically be.
Mm-hmm.
Who I would like. I think JD Vance would be cool. That would be kind of a game on, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think AF Post just tweeted that it is not someone mentioned on his public list so far. That's kind of... there's been something in the back of my mind that says that that's what, like, we've never actually heard who it's going to be. But I'm going to stick with my prediction of who I realistically think it's going to be. I'm going to stick with Youngkin. The coolest person would be Eric Prince. I think that would be just fucking amazing. But I think, like, from a political standpoint, I think JD Vance would probably be the most productive. So that would be like my like hope it is. Like, I hope it's JD Vance. But I mean, Eric Prince would just be... I haven't even given that serious consideration until the events of the last couple days and seeing the response to that and how much Eric Prince's name was being elevated by a lot of people. VP Barron, yeah. But I almost think that Prince would be more productive behind the scenes, or maybe as like Secretary of Defense or something like that. Like I kind of think that would be more productive. And I'm not going to lie, I'm very much sold on JD Vance. But his background, I can't get that little inkling away that he was initially very never Trump and had a lot of really limp-wristed things that he said about Trump early on, and it's hard to make that go away. I say that being, fully convinced that it's gone away, but yeah. It'd be so cool if it dropped like right now while we're talking about it.
Yeah, well.
Doesn't seem like it's going to.
Nah, still got a few more minutes. Guess we'll find out tomorrow.
Yep. All right. Well, you guys will either be talking about the VP tomorrow. Oh, just in from Douglas McGregor, anonymous source reveals Trump will announce JD Vance as his VP pick at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's a very specific prediction. So we'll see. All right. Well, I appreciate all of you guys showing up today. I knew it was going to be a big crowd. We're at 106 right now. Watching live. Thank you guys for gracing our little podcast with your presence. We go live every Monday through Friday, talking whatever stories happen to be in the news, whatever funny things that I see. So we'd invite you to come back and join us again every weekday morning, about 10:30 Central. Do us a favor and like the stream. Share it out with people if you think it was worthwhile. Follow me on Twitter at RealKingPilled. Follow Cooper at Cooper Brooks. And join the King Pill Discord. We're having a grand old time in there. Lots of very good posting happening. And we've teased a project that we're working on, and much of that project is going to happen in the Discord. So anybody who's in the Discord gets an opportunity to be involved. So kingpill.com, sign up. We'll see you there. Appreciate you.